I feel like you've already asked all the right questions, so I can just pass on the mic to Ada and give the floor to you guys. Thank you for staying. Thank you for your patience. We promise to make this short and painless and lively and hopefully interactive. We'll also be showing a few clips because I'm sorry, we both work in TV and we couldn't help it. And Ada is a channel director for Central and Eastern Europe, Discovery Channel director. So if we are to speak about good quality content about sustainability and about science, then we think Discovery, or I think Discovery, that's for sure. So yes, we'll try to, we won't, I'm sorry Andrei, not answer all your questions. We don't have enough time, but we'll try to answer at least a couple of them, and we'll try to see how can media contribute to a sustainable society and to a good life, and what exactly is a good life? What do we mean by that? But also, how do we communicate about science and sustainability in a, let's say, sexy way, but also relevant, given this stream of information and the fight against too much information. I'll let Ada to briefly introduce herself, because she's not only the head of Discovery, but she also is trained in science, in chemistry. So there's a stronger link than you can first see.
Hello. Yes, I've studied chemistry a long time ago. And I started working in media before I graduated, so I never got a chance to teach or practice chemistry, but that didn't stop me from following science. And for a while I went, I steered away from chemistry or science or any kind of information in terms of what I was doing in media, but then it caught up with me. And it's not only that I started working for Discovery almost 9 years ago, but even before that, I rediscovered science in media, basically. I discovered that there is a strong part of information that's available to all of us, and it's at arm's length, and you only need to be interested in order to get it. And even before everybody got access to internet, and even before people started using Wikipedia and then contesting Wikipedia, it was a question, what was right, what was true. I remember reading when I was young, Erich von Däniken, which is one of the writers who popularizes interesting subjects like extraterrestrial visitations and so on, which is further from science than you can imagine. Well, it's very much what part of the internet is today. And a lot of people thought, wow, this is science, it's interesting. Someone is writing in an interesting way about it. And you only need to scratch it a little bit. Again, I'm talking about the 70s. I was not born young in the 70s, but I was born then. And even then, it was a problem of selecting the good science communication from the bad one. And I discovered that I become a very passionate person about the good science and the right science. And the fact that I work for Discovery makes me very happy, because only after I joined Discovery, I discovered an interesting part of Discovery history. I didn't know it before that. The guy who invented Discovery, because Discovery was not there always, it was founded in 1985 by a teacher in US who wanted to, and he said that at the beginning, it was his vision, pretty much. He said, I want to answer people's curiosity about life and the world around us in an entertaining way, which sounds very trite and very, run-of-the-mill. You can claim it, but he actually did it. he made TV programs that were interesting and people were watching and were trying to get those programs and making people more educated through those programs. And I don't know if you remember, not all of you, some of you, maybe your parents, when the cable companies started their existence in Romania and they started offering their services, there were 3 pillars. I'm not going to name one of them because it's obvious, but the other one was Cartoon Network, cartoons for kids, and Discovery Channel. So people wanted to know, okay, I'm going to pay you a certain amount of money per month, but only if you can give me something to keep my children happy and entertained, and if you can give me something that would make me happy and entertained.
Feed my curiosity.
Yeah, feed my curiosity.
And also, I mean, watching Discovery was a status thing. At least in the 90s, it was cool to say that you're watching the Discovery and to be able to speak about what you saw last night on Discovery. I don't know if that's still the case, probably not that much. But that definitely tells at least part of the story of how important good quality communication about science and also sustainability, because it's very trendy right now, and how important actually people consider it. And going back to curiosity as a trigger and as a spark for not only scientific discoveries and basically the evolution of the whole society as we now see it, but today curiosity is also has become a means in socializing. I mean, you're feeding your curiosity not only to improve the quality of your life, but also your mind, and to share common values and common knowledge with your friends.
It's true. We not only we have seen that in ourselves, in our friends, and in the people who are reaching out to us discovery. Sometimes I talk about us, and usually by us I mean discovery. When I talk about me, I say I. So they reach out to us and share stories about things that brought people together, that they learn from discovery. At a certain moment we started collecting instances from TV series and movies with people saying, oh, it's true, I know it from Discovery. Oh, where did you know that? Oh, I've seen it on Discovery. It was like a meme, pretty much, before the whole concept got so popular. So because curiosity is pretty much the foundation of Discovery brand and Discovery Channel, we've done a study around Europe and Middle East and Africa as well, and asked people about how are they curious and how they interact, how they feed their curiosity when they interact with media. And in order to be able to compare the countries and see who's using more what, and what are the prevalent modes of curiosity, we defined these five ways of curiosity, and you can see them on screens. I'm just going to touch on them because there is a whole story about that, and I can direct you to the website where we have the results of this study, and where you can see how, for example, Romania compares to other countries. But for example, fact farming means that we hoard information. We like to surf the internet only to get more information because it seems to be a currency. Then it's phone a friend or a stranger, which is basically what we do either in real life or in social media when we share information that we know. For example, I heard, I haven't even read, I heard that, you know, that the Curiosity rover on Mars, it found traces of water. And the question was, why hasn't the Curiosity rover gone to search for the source of water? And that's one of the things that I like to tell people whenever I can grab someone, you know, because I tend to do that. They completely took it away from there, because when they sent the Curiosity rover on Mars, they didn't expect to find anything that might have connection to life. And it was not decontaminated. The Curiosity rover could take to Mars viruses and things that might completely ruin our chances of maybe establishing a colony there in the future. So for me, that's interesting. What's the benefit of that? I don't know, but it sounds fascinating because it sheds a light that I had no idea might be relevant on something that is interesting now. Undemanding downtime, it's the moment where the curiosity is at its most superficial part. Then it's worldly investigation, and that's more about, I need to know a little bit of what happens here and there because I need to know where I stand. I need to know that the Americans are going to have elections. I need to know what's the general... For me, it's important, and for a lot of people, it's important to understand the world better, not only the science or... and it's the rabbit holes are the places where we find our hobbies or our personal interests, the ones that are clear, defining us, and we turn them not only from hobbies into maybe passions, and from passions to maybe ways of life. So when we mapped that, we looked at each country and we saw that, for example, in Germany, there are a lot of people who are into rabbit holes. They are hobbyists. Germany is a nation where people take their hobbies very seriously. So if they are interested in, I don't know, model trains, they know everything about it. So they have a much higher prevalence of rabbit holes than, for example, Romania. In Romania, we use all of them almost equally. We are equal opportunity curious, if you want. While the more you go toward Russia, for example, it's very important to be able to impress the others toward East. So Russia, and then we haven't done it in China, but I expect that because also they put a high price on education. They need to be informed in order to be better perceived and have a higher standing in life. So we can compare, based on curiosity and how we use it, we can compare ourselves to the others. And for us, that was very interesting and very relevant. And we talk about it a lot, and I talked about it in here.
So you're saying that Romanians are basically equally curious about everything, and we've gone as a society from too little information to too much information right now. How does media fight this too much information problem? How do you as a programmer decide what to produce, what to finance, and what to show on TV in order to get your audience attention, but also to communicate relevant stories that would eventually lead to a more informed opinion and a more informed audience?
Well, there are many answers to this one, and maybe it's better to take a step back and talk about something that we haven't mentioned when we talked about what we should talk here. I also work for the public broadcaster, for TVR, and TVR has a duty toward the Romanian public to educate, to inform. So for TVR, education is not an option. For Discovery, it's an option, and it's a business option. But for TVR, it's not an option, it's mandatory, it's part of what they have to do. But you cannot preach in an empty church. So you cannot go there and say, my duty is to educate and inform, and it doesn't matter how I do it, as long as I do it, because that's not proper education. You cannot educate to an audience that's not going toward you. And it's not difficult. There. Yeah, it's not there. It's difficult to bridge that gap, because one thing it's obvious, and probably you are all aware of that, the moment you use the word education, 99% of the people around you will close their mind, turn their back to you, and leave. Because education is not sexy. It's not interesting. It sounds boring because that's how the school was. It was full of prescriptive information and rules and things that you need to memorize, and very rarely it was exciting and interesting. But on the other hand, if we go back, we all remember one teacher, or maybe two, who were fascinating and who probably changed our lives. I studied chemistry because I had a wonderful chemistry teacher in high school, and I went to I don't know, not the kind of high school where you study languages and history, not math. So
human science.
Yeah, human sciences, yes. Humanities, yes. So basically, it was a completely change of track because I had a wonderful teacher. Media can be the same. So the problem is...
You need to become the wonderful teacher.
Yeah. The problem is not do you want to do education or you don't want to do. If you want to do education, you need to be entertaining. On the other hand, you need to do it seriously because you cannot expect to start being educational without asking yourself what you are doing and why you are doing it.
And speaking of becoming the wonderful teacher that brings his students closer and closer and interested, how do you do that as media? How do you make education, and in this case science and sustainability, sexy? And I know that you have some clips to show regarding that.
There is a part of Discovery in US, in UK. We work on an international level. It started in US. It's called Discovery Education, and it's basically a publisher of educational material. But instead of publishing on paper, it's an online resource that has everything from a thing called Discovery Educators Network, DEN for short, which is a Facebook for teachers, but it's a Facebook that's geared toward improving their education, the educational tools, to online textbooks. In US, you can go on Discovery Education website, and if you are one of the clients, if you want, as a teacher, you can go and say, I'm teaching physics, I'm in the 7th week of this year when I'm teaching 5th grade. You have a drop-down menu and you have everything from quizzes to videos that shows things that you might not be able to observe yourself. So instead of having a book, you have a website, and that's also interesting for kids because a lot of teachers are afraid to use internet because they cannot control. This is something that's controlled and geared toward education. And maybe you can show this, this clip to give you an idea.
I can take a field trip around the world, even though I've never been on an airplane.
I can investigate the mysteries of the human body from the inside out.
I can see the world through the eyes of others.
I can experience what's happening today and understand what it means for tomorrow.
I can do experiments and learn to think like a scientist.
I can learn biology while I'm learning English.
I can solve problems that I couldn't understand before.
I can dream.
I can engage.
I can build.
Touchdown.
I can achieve.
I can learn.
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 Now, what's interesting is that Discovery Education doesn't talk directly to kids. And I think that's a very relevant part. It talks first and foremost to teachers because unless the teachers are engaged and used to using all these tools, it's not going to happen. we have done a project in Romania called Școala Discovery, where we have provided a similar tool, a much more rudimentary tool, if you want, because we didn't have the same resources at the end of the day. And I think instead of me explaining, I would leave the clip to play and then go back a little bit to how the teachers are the first targets of these tools.
In 1985, John Hendricks had a vision.
To use the medium of television to satisfy curiosity about life and the world we live in.
Now, Discovery Communications is the world's #1 factual media company, broadcasting to over 1.5 billion subscribers, with thousands of hours of world-class content, intensive research, and the collaboration of some of the globe's most talented and knowledgeable people.
Hello, my name is Stephen Hawking.
We continue to innovate, inform, and satisfy curiosity in over 200 countries. Education is a big part of what we do. It's in our DNA. We believe that education is the responsibility of everyone, and we can help by doing what we do best: great educational television. In the USA, Discovery's education initiatives are helping improve the lives of over 1 million educators and 35 million students. 80% of teachers agree that the students' performance improves, and 93% of students affirm that Discovery education helps them discover other worlds, cultures, and environments.
It's a trusted resource.
Very cooperative.
Game changer.
Creative.
Exhilarating.
Fun.
I really like it.
Helpful.
Interesting.
Discovery Channel has been capturing the hearts and minds of the people of Romania for over 10 years. Now, it's time to spread the power of television to the classroom in the form of an educational schools program block broadcast on the Discovery Channel. We've called it Școala Discovery. Aimed at school children over 10 years old and their teachers, we'll show educational programs for 1 hour every school day. The commercial-free hour will showcase premier science and maths-based programs from Discovery Education, as well as key learning providers from across the globe. All programming will be new to Romania and distinct from anything else we broadcast. It will be scheduled with a different theme for every day of the week. Maths on Monday, chemistry on Tuesday, and so on. Themed programming weeks will be planned to coincide with special events, like the NASA Pioneer 40-year anniversary.
Discovery Education really has found the model of engaging students.
Teachers can tailor their curriculum around the programs, using them as an engaging and efficient way of learning by harnessing the proven power of high-quality video content.
We've seen phenomenal results.
We'll back this programming up with additional classroom materials via a dedicated website. We'll provide everything needed to release the potential of students and teachers and transform the whole classroom experience. In a partnership with the Romanian Ministry of Education, with a shared belief and a shared goal, Discovery's passion and unique expertise can help inspire and enlighten the next generation. Școala Discovery Romania. Let's make it happen together.
So now, basically going back to one of Andrei's questions, who are the relevant voices in this discourse? I get that teachers are a very, very relevant voice when it comes to educating about science and educating about sustainability. And you've got media, this commercial media, which is Discovery, that basically spoke to teachers who can then spread the word. And that's one way, one interesting way to do it, which is not like the first thing you would think about when you speak about media.
Well, it's, true. You wouldn't. This project was launched 5 years ago, and the first thing we did was we trained 100 teachers from different cities in Romania. one of them who got on Discovery Educators Network even managed to have a project done and published in a education journal in US, done with another teacher in US. So we created bridges like that. Teachers are, I think they are key, and Discovery and media can talk to them in a way that's relevant, and we can help and we can provide services. Discovery Education is now developing different projects, mostly for teachers in all over the world, in Middle East and in Singapore and in Latin America as well. But Discovery Education is a very narrow part of what Discovery is doing, because most of all, I think, since we are talking about media, Discovery is doing, and not only Discovery, other channels are doing a very important job in inspiring people. So one thing is, okay, provide information, provide resources, provide trainings, bridge the gap between the new ways of using media and old ways of teaching. But in order for that to have an impact, we all need the support of all the society in advocating for spending resources for science and education, in supporting science, in supporting the adults, supporting their children when they are interested in science, in inspiring children to go into science. One of the things that I thought when we started doing Școala Discovery, for example, was if there is one kid that we have turned from doing something else into doing science, and that kid does something that would make our life better in the future, I think I can die happy. But even if it's only less than that, one kid who discovered the passion for science while seeing that, you know, a media company is taking science and education seriously and talking about STEM, science, engineering, technology, and math. That's the acronym that we used. And finding meaning in that, I think it's good. And I think that's the role of media. One of the bigger roles that media can have is inspire and engage. The other, obviously, is curate. And I think we don't have a lot of time, so I will ask.
We'll open the floor to questions from you guys. Andrei, yeah, one extra question from you. Thank you.
Yeah, it does. And thank you very much for this conversation. There are actually two very separate questions. One is gender related. And one of the things we've struggled, not just for this discussion, but throughout the 3 days of conversation, was that to buck the trend and really make this as in a sense, gender neutral as possible, meaning to bring more female voices to the fora in a country that's still very much divided in that, and we almost inevitably associate that. Is there an element in your programming that consider that dimension and helps women approach whether STEM or sciences in general, and what role can media play in that respect? And the second question, completely separate from this, and I have a confession to make. I haven't had a TV in, I don't know, almost 20 years, and I haven't missed it. Partly because technology offered me a different way of approaching my information needs. But I'm going to be a father in about 3 or 4 months from now. And for the first time, I was like thinking, wait a minute, do I need to have a TV? Should I be afraid of a TV? Do I want to bring that object into the house? What would that mean to a child? And quite frankly, for the first time in the past, 5.5 months, the answer to that question is, okay, I can buy into this. I can actually think that that, well curated, can be a part of the offering. And with this long introduction, I've heard a little bit about the connection between what you offer on quote-unquote TV and what your online complete universe is. How do you go about making those work together? And what's the thinking in the future for that integration? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. First, gender, I know it's a difficult question. I have a chart that's at the end of the presentation because I'm going to go directly to the end, with the YouTube channels that are talking about, with guys, I'm going to say guys, talking about science in such an interesting and entertaining way that they are heroes. People love them. They have more following than some of the biggest bands in the world, the football players and so on. And you'll see on the chart that the most famous, the most well-known one has 10 million subscribers and more than 1 billion views to his channel. The reason I brought that up is because all of them, the one in the top, are male. I know most of the YouTube channels that talk about science because I'm a geek, and I follow most of them. There are some girls, they are good. Some of them are very entertaining, but most of them are men. So on one hand, it's true, it's still a very male-dominated part. On the other hand, I never felt like I'm strange for liking science, and I never had, but I'm not an academic. I know it's a problem in academic world. I never felt like I'm not welcome in a conversation about science. Again, I know there are problems. I think the answer, but that's a personal position, I think the answer is not empowering women. It's completely taking the gender out of the conversation. It's not about bringing more women into the labs. It's about bringing the people who want to be there and making sure that they are all welcome. Men, women, transgender, black, white, yellow. I remember we used to have a song when we were in the communist regime about kids who were white, black, yellow, or red. So it doesn't matter the color, it doesn't matter the gender, it matters that people need to work together in order to push the science further. And I think that's very important. In our conversation before, I said that the science needs to be pushed forward at a faster pace than ever before because we consume more. We consume and we need more, and we got used to having things, but on the other hand, we are consuming them. So lithium for batteries, running low. I'm not going to talk about petrol and everything else. So we need to find new things at a higher pace than ever before. So science, it's crucial. So that's the answer. We are not looking, and I don't feel like we need to empower women. I think we need to empower everyone. And that's the first question. The other about how we bring it all together, that's a question that has to answer. The first one is for a commercial company to do it, it needs to have a financial model that makes sense. And that's not there yet. So a lot of companies are trying a lot of solutions. I'm not sure that anyone has a definite answer that would integrate linear with non-linear television, education with entertainment in a way that's going to make everybody happy. So we are still trying, but it's like science. We make an assumption, we test it. If it's proven at least partially right, we explore it some more. If it's proven wrong, we move away from it and so on. That's one issue. On the other hand, I think that grassroots is the answer. The big companies are not going to integrate things before the people who are doing it on their own, the entrepreneurial spirits are finding a way because they are the ones who can test with lower costs. So I think the answer to your question is you won't need a television for your kid. You will have access to the kind of content that we all consume through everything else. So television is not television anymore. Television is an environment. We call it television and we talk about linear television, but I think it's much more than that. Because we engage with the linear television on Facebook, on their website. We don't follow channels on linear, but we know about them because some of our friends are commenting on them on social media. So you would probably be able very soon to create the environment for your kids that's going to be curated by you, aiming to bring all those sources of information, video and interactive and however you want, that you want. But that brings us back to the other question is, how would all the people who we are talking to be able to discern between everything that's offered out there? And that's, I think, still the role of media. So we delinearize everything, we make everything available, but we still need curators. And we still need, and the media would turn out to be, in the end, the trusted curator that discerns for you what's relevant and what's not relevant, what's good and what's bad, what's correct, at least to our knowledge, scientifically, to our current knowledge, or not.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I'll just move on. Sorry, Andrei. He was, the gentleman here had his hand up a bit earlier.
Yeah, question.
Hi, I'm Sergei Koshman from Aspen Institute Kyiv. And actually, this is exactly the question I'd like to ask you. This is the great opportunity to ask. Because when Andrei talks about television, actually, and if I'm extraterrestrial from the other planet, I don't understand what he's talking about, because it's like television is like a big screen that has a possibility to stream anything, YouTube or something. And my question is actually about the nature. How you think the nature of this kind of flow of data that you couldn't control. This is what we call television, which has nothing to do with the concept we had quite recently. How it is changing and how it's going to adapt, in your understanding, in the near future to the new reality of streaming, online streaming and so on. About having this kind of a foreign object that Andrei mentioned, the television that broadcasts something you couldn't control, you couldn't kind of fast forward, you couldn't pause, you couldn't stop, and so on. So it's about the nature of television, how it's changing, and when was the moment that you couldn't any longer call it television, which is seeing something from the distance. Thank you.
It's a good question. It gives me a chance to say something that I wanted to say in a... whenever you make a choice, let's say you are on one of the streaming services, like on Netflix, whenever you make a choice, that choice has a cost. You need to evaluate things, you need to research them maybe. People are not watching streaming services without any kind of information. It might be from a friend, so you need to connect with people, or it might be from recommendation engine and so on, but that's a cost, that's an effort. And most of the time, when you go to watch television, however it is, linear, non-linear, you are, at the end of the day, you are tired, and sometimes you are not willing to make that effort. So for me, that's the reason why the linear television, the one that's programmed by someone, will not disappear anytime soon. We will still need to have somewhere, maybe not 120 channels like we have now, linear channels, but 10, the good one, the one that we trust, the one that represents areas of interest, or maybe there will be 120, that I can dip in without making any effort, and where I can find things that I didn't know I like. Because even the engines that recommend you similar things to the ones that you have liked or watched are restrictive, because they are based on the past, and the past doesn't cover everything that you might like. So you might have a history of watching science fiction and documentaries about history, but you might watch something on a linear channel that you will love, that might be a comedy or something completely new, experimental filmmaking of a type that you never thought to look for. So for that reason, we will continue to have this kind of linear, curated, top-down channels.
Where someone has already made a decision for you, but you trust that channel.
You
by
trust
default.
it to bring things to you. I will listen to a podcast of music. It's the NPR, the American Public Radio, makes a podcast of music to find new music that I might like. I don't like everything, but the kind of songs that I like are sometimes featured there, and there are musicians that I don't know about. So something similar to that will exist always. But yes, we would be empowered to look for our own content, and that's going to become much more prevalent as we go ahead. But I'm going to, bet here that over the next 50 years, if you want, we can make that bet, over the next 50 years, the linear television won't disappear.
And we'll still be around in 50 years. Last question there.
So what about virtual reality? Is Discovery working on that? And when we will have this virtual reality?
Thank you. Thank you. It's a wonderful question. Thank you. And I didn't arrange for him to ask that.
But can I please ask you to make it quick, the answer? Because no, do you wanna give? Are you sure you're giving up your question? Okay.
Okay. So Discovery is exploring. Discovery already has. If you go on apps, you'll see a Discovery VR app where we have a lot of things. Discovery is trying to find a way of doing VR that makes sense. We had a presentation this morning. One of our colleagues from London was at ICE Fest, and she talked about VR. And she said, you need to ask yourself when you are doing something in VR, what am I doing in VR that I couldn't have done otherwise? Because it's not a gimmick. It's not like a 3D lens, 3D glasses that you put and you see the same thing in 3D. It needs to bring something more. VR needs to bring something more. It needs to create a kind of experience that would make you feel different than the same thing filmed in a normal way. And it would change the way we tell stories. We were thinking about doing something with the zoo. And the whole point was, if you put a VR camera in a zoo, you should be able to look at the people looking at the animals as well. And that might be interesting. You look at the animals, see what they are doing, but you can do that with a camera, with a normal camera. This one might be funny because you'd see the people looking at animals, and that might be relevant. Discovery has been filming a TV series, a fiction, a scripted TV series in Romania for the last 3 months about the founders of the Harley-Davidson brand. And we have put a VR camera on the tracks where they have done the races. The whole point of this filming was to try to give people who would have this app and watch it the same experience, or make them feel like they were racing in a motorcycle race in 1915 or 1925. See all the motorcycles, the way they were, and they were funny at the beginning. Let me tell you, because I've seen the bikes. They looked like the Harley-Davidson at the beginning. They looked like bikes with a small engine, and they didn't have any brakes. And by having that experience in VR, you might go back in time. That's the whole idea. We took everybody, all the cameras, all the modern equipment, and tried to make the track look like a 1915 track. So we are trying to reinvent storytelling somehow, or visual experience, by using VR. And I think it's the right way to do it. And I'm very happy that we are doing that. And we have an internal challenge at Discovery where we ask ourselves, what can we do in VR that's relevant and that only we can do?
Well, that's definitely the future, and maybe a future topic for discussion for next year's festival. I think we need to wrap this up. We could have probably continued for hours, but yeah, I guess our conclusion that we have to say we've kind of agreed upon beforehand was, it's a curated conclusion, a well-informed conclusion, is that we need to advance science in order to have a good life and to have a sustainable society, and we need to talk about it, to talk about science and to talk about the relevance of sustainability, basically.
Yeah, I think it's as much as we are people working in media and supporting and advising media, I think it's important to say that as many times as possible, media has a role in that. But it doesn't mean it has to be preachy or it has to be boring or, oh, this is a pill we need to swallow. Science can be extremely exciting. Math is like poetry. It's fascinating. Science is something that's worth talking about, and there are people among us, among our friends, who like to talk about scientific subjects, and we only need to feed that kind of conversation and curate it. And as journalists, it's our duty, whenever we are doing it, to check that we are doing to
find a way to do that. Yeah.
And that we are doing it the right way, that we are not supporting some things that the science, as it is right now, has decided it's not maybe the best way to do it, like the string theory. It's interesting. It's already been set aside. Let's not talk to young people about string theory. There are other subjects that's worth talking about, but I'm trusting the young generation because they are, the millennials, they love science. I think we don't need to do as much. I just realized maybe we don't need to do anything.
That's cool. That's a good conclusion. I could go home with that in mind. Well, thank you again for tonight. Sorry, we're a bit late. Enjoy the rest of the evening and enjoy tomorrow's discussions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sorana. A fascinating conversation.